Human rights is a right everyone should have because he's a human being. During the Second World War, a lot happened. Lives were lost, people were treated unfairly, everybody was doing what he feels to do to survive. But after the war, the leaders from the nations, many nations, came together to put up a committee, that is a UN. And from there, they were able to write out this Universal Declaration of Human Rights. They wrote so many things about how they can treat each other so that this world will be a better place for all of us.
This right normally is to make people understand that they have right to speak, they have right to belong to a family, they have right to be educated, they have right to belong to a group of people.
We all agree that human rights are fundamental to humanity. And that is why they are not left just like that. That is why they are controlled by the United Nations and the various constitutions of the various countries. Human rights are critical because without them, humanity will be a semblance of the animal kingdom. We need human rights to respect the dignity of humanity. There's no human right without the appreciation of dignity. And once human beings are not dignified, they become next to animals. And these values can always be learned and practiced through human rights education.
So when we talk about human rights education, we are talking about teaching the individual or inculcating into the individual their right and their responsibility so that they can be effective and productive in society.
The Geneva Office of Human Rights Education was an outgrowth of some work by two sets of missionaries. They saw that there was a need for a way to teach human rights in many countries in the world, and that there was a deficiency in the existing curriculum. And the deficiency was that the freedom for religion was tending to be watered down to freedom of belief, and also that in order to teach about these things, you can't just talk about one right, you have to talk about many.
So Geneva Office for Human Rights Education, its main purpose is to help develop rights and treat everyone with respect and kindness, no matter our differences. We are not seeking to develop activists or protesters. No, we are not. Our hope is that with this education, individuals will choose to treat others in a respectful way when problems arise.
These children, let's find out what is happening in their lives, and we can be that guardian angels for them. We don't need to judge them. That is why we are here today. So that when we inculcate that in them, growing up, they will always make sure they find out about things happening in people's lives rather than judging them, concluding, he's like that, he's like
Naturally, the church is very interested in preserving freedom of religion and belief. This freedom is being curtailed in many places. However, when you study the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, it becomes apparent that all the rights are interconnected.
But the Islamic religion recognizes the human right as a fundamental cornerstone of humanity. Islam is about the respect for human dignity. And the Quran is replete with verses that are indicative of our responsibility to respect humanity.
As a pastor pushing human rights education from the beginning, I had a little challenge because there are things in society, there are some practices that the scriptures or the Bible hate or upholds. So trying to teach people they have rights to do whatever they like was a little difficult, but I had the understanding that in teaching the right, there are responsibility. So you teach people you have right to do whatever you are expected, but there are restrictions, and there are responsibility.
We cannot talk of human rights without touching human rights violations or human rights abuses. The protection against killing, the protection against all kinds of discrimination, the protection against all kinds of evil, protection against all kinds of mischief. These are all evils that are opposed by the Holy Quran. Now let's come to the rights and freedoms, the right to live, the right to dignity, the right to education, the right to accommodation, the right to feeding, the right to intellectualism, or anything positive for you. These are all values that are emphasized by the Quran.
Personally, through this education, I've learned a lot that is even helping my ministry in the church, because now I know if I'm communicating to the members, if I'm preaching the gospel, the words I should use, the words I shouldn't use. If I'm preaching, how I should treat people in the church. For instance, there were times when I'm preaching people, I see something I don't like, I get angry and I rebuke people publicly. I got to realize that people have rights, so I should ask why they do some things before I come into conclusion.
So this initiative will enhance global peace and harmony. 2, it will also give the participants the opportunity to learn other dimensions of human rights education and to use these kinds of dimensions to educate others. I want to believe that most of the participants are teachers, and teachers should be given the opportunity to understand the dynamics of human rights education so that they will be able to educate the children and the students who are not children.
This initiative, in terms of the church, is more of an outward-facing initiative. In other words, it's like Helping Hands or the humanitarian work that the LDS Charities does. Our work isn't to work with the church members, but to interface with governments and communities and educators and be outward-looking to help communities and to help schools. We aren't looking to be developing protesters or activists that are going to create disturbances. What we are seeking to do is to teach people the principles that can help us live in harmony with one another, that we can enjoy people who are different than we are. Here's the COLEGA manual for children. These were made especially for Africa. We have these manuals also with different covers for the other countries, for Brazil, for the Philippines, but for here we wanted it to be African.
Our main project now is to teach teachers this program. And as I said, this program is all about teaching rights and responsibilities through activities. So all the rights the children know, what are their attendance responsibilities? That is what we put into activities to let these participants know. Go back and give it to the society, give it to their school, and help everybody grow through this rights and responsibilities.
I think it's a good initiative that is going to reform and shape us as individuals, as we go about in our everyday lives, as we teach in school. It's going to have a great impact on us.
I've learned that everyone has a right and everyone is important. You know, I don't need to draw quick conclusion. I have to take my time, ask questions before I act. I have to give everybody room to bring out their best. I've learned a lot.
We used to hear human rights, and first it was something about defending people. People are there and trying to let people know about their rights and all those things. But today I realized it is something different. about freedom, justice, and peace. And people have the right, but they also have a responsibility towards others. So how you want people to treat you, this is what you are supposed to do also to them.